The desert sun scorched the small trailer park on the outskirts of Tucson, Arizona, where survival was a daily battle. Maria's world had never been kind, but nothing could have prepared her for the nightmare that consumed her life. At 24, she carried the weight of generations of struggle, her mother's silent tears, her grandmother's broken dreams, all etched into the lines of her weathered face. Carlos Mendoza had entered her life like a hurricane, charming and destructive. Their relationship began with stolen glances at the local diner where Maria worked double shifts. He was older, seemingly successful, with a smile that could melt steel and eyes that promised protection. For a young woman who had grown up watching her mother survive on minimum wage, Carlos represented an escape from generational poverty. The first time he hit her, Maria convinced herself it was a mistake. Stress, he said. Work pressure, he explained. Her lip was split, her pride shattered, but she believed his promises of change. Love, she had been taught, was about endurance. Her mother had survived. Her grandmother had survived. Survival was the women's inheritance. Emma's birth changed everything and nothing. The tiny bundle in Maria's arms was a beacon of hope, a reason to fight. But Carlos saw the child differently. She was a responsibility, an inconvenience, a threat to his control. The violence escalated, becoming a calculated storm of psychological manipulation and physical terror. Nights became a choreography of fear. Maria would tuck Emma into bed, creating fortresses of stuffed animals and soft blankets. She'd whisper stories of strength, of women who overcame impossible odds. Emma, barely 2, would listen with eyes that seemed to understand far more than a child her age should. The trailer became a prison. Carlos controlled every aspect of their lives: Maria's phone, her movements, her connections to the outside world. He knew how to break a spirit without leaving visible marks. Bruises could heal, but the wounds of emotional abuse ran deeper than skin. One particular night stood out in Maria's memory with horrifying clarity. Carlos had been drinking, his mood oscillating between rage and manipulation. Emma was playing quietly in the corner, her favorite teddy bear clutched tightly. Maria watched her daughter, seeing a strength that belied her tiny frame. In that moment, something inside her shifted. It wasn't a single moment of courage, but a culmination of countless small decisions. Maria had been secretly saving money, singles and coins hidden in an old coffee can behind the pantry. She'd been making quiet plans, reaching out to a support network she had carefully, secretly built. Her cousin worked at a women's shelter. Her manager at the diner knew something was wrong and had been subtly supporting her. The escape was not dramatic but calculated. One Wednesday night, when Carlos worked the late shift at the construction site, Maria moved with precision. She packed a single bag with essentials: Emma's favorite blanket, important documents, a few changes of clothes. Her hands didn't shake. Her heart, for the first time in years, felt something close to hope. Emma understood something significant was happening. Children are more perceptive than adults realize. She moved quietly, helping her mother in her own 2-year-old way, bringing her small backpack, carefully placing her most treasured stuffed animal inside. There was no fear in her eyes, only a curious determination that mirrored her mother's. As they slipped into the old, borrowed sedan belonging to Maria's cousin, the desert night embraced them. The stars seemed to witness their escape, silent guardians of their newfound freedom. Miles stretched before them, miles away from Carlos, from fear, from the life that had tried to consume them. Maria's hands gripped the steering wheel, her eyes constantly checking the mirror. But they weren't just running away. They were running towards something: hope, healing, a future where a mother and daughter could write their own story. Little did they know, their journey was just beginning. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time they were traveling it together, unbroken, unafraid, united. The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly on the K-9 training facility, a sprawling compound where broken spirits, both human and canine, found unexpected redemption. Jake Martinez wasn't born into law enforcement. He was called to it through a series of life-altering moments that would reshape his entire understanding of protection and healing. Growing up in a small border town, Jake had witnessed the complexities of human struggle from an early age. His father, a border patrol agent, had been a complicated man, tough on the outside, but harboring a deep compassion that Jake would only fully understand years later. His mother, a social worker, taught him that every person carried a story far more complex than their surface suggested. Buddy's journey began in a place of darkness. Rescued from a notorious dog fighter who treated animals as mere weapons, the German Shepherd had known nothing but violence and fear. His first months of training were a delicate dance of rehabilitation. Each touch, each command a potential trigger that could send him spiraling back into survival mode. Jake remembered the first time he met Buddy. The dog was a mass of contradictions, powerful muscles tensed for fight or flight, yet eyes that held an almost human depth of pain and potential. The initial training sessions were brutal. Buddy would alternate between aggressive defensiveness and moments of heartbreaking vulnerability. Lesser handlers would have given up, would have seen him as beyond redemption. But Jake saw something different. His mother's social work had taught him about trauma, how it lives in the body, how it transforms people and animals alike. Each of Buddy's reactive moments was a language, a communication of past pain. Jake learned to listen, to respond with patience that bordered on revolutionary tenderness. The breakthrough came on a scorching summer afternoon. During a standard training exercise, a loud noise triggered Buddy's past trauma. Where most dogs would have attacked or fled, Buddy simply shut down, a protective mechanism learned from years of abuse. Jake didn't approach with commands or force. Instead, he sat quietly, speaking in soft, measured tones about safety, about healing. Hours passed. The training ground emptied. Jake remained, a silent sentinel of understanding. As the sun began to set, Buddy inched closer, not out of submission, but of something closer to trust. It was a moment that would define both of their lives, the first true connection between a broken dog and a compassionate human. Their partnership wasn't just about law enforcement. Jake and the department's leadership recognized Buddy's unique ability to connect with trauma survivors. They developed a specialized program focusing on support for domestic violence victims, child witnesses, and families in crisis. Buddy became more than a police dog. He was a living, breathing instrument of healing. Their work took them to the most challenging spaces, courtrooms where children, shelters protecting those escaping violence, community centers dealing with the most fragile human experiences. Buddy had an uncanny ability to sense pain. He would sit perfectly still next to a traumatized child, offering a silent, steady presence that spoke louder than any words. Jake's approach was revolutionary in local law enforcement. He saw his job not as about catching criminals, but about protecting communities, about understanding the root causes of violence. Domestic violence calls became more than just incident reports. They became opportunities for intervention, for breaking cycles of abuse. The department initially viewed Jake and Buddy's methods with skepticism. Traditional law enforcement training emphasized control, dominance, a show of force. But Jake's approach proved more effective. Victims felt heard. Children felt safe. Perpetrators found themselves confronted not just by physical authority, but by a deeper, more transformative form of accountability. Buddy's scars became a testament to healing. Each mark told a story of survival, of transformation from a weapon to a protector. Jake would often tell new recruits that true strength wasn't about physical power, but about the capacity to understand, to heal, to provide safety. Their reputation spread beyond the local community. Other departments began to study their methods. Buddy became something of a legend, a dog who had transformed from a victim of the worst of human cruelty to a beacon of hope and protection. As they prepared for another day of service, Jake would look at Buddy and see more than a police dog. He saw a partner, a healer, a living reminder that healing is possible. That survival is not just about enduring, but about transforming pain into protection. Little did they know how their paths would soon intersect with Maria and Emma, two souls who would need exactly the kind of healing they represented. The fluorescent lights of the community center buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow on Maria's determined face. 6 months after her escape, every moment was a battle, not against Carlos, but against the shadows he had left behind. Survival was no longer enough. Maria wanted to truly live, to create a world where her daughter would never know the fear she had endured. Her journey began in the most unexpected place, a small support group for domestic violence survivors. The first day, Maria sat in the back, her body coiled tight like a spring ready to snap. Emma played quietly with a set of donated toys, her large eyes occasionally darting up to check on her mother. The room was filled with women whose stories echoed Maria's own, fragments of broken dreams, tentative hopes, raw survival. The group's facilitator became Maria's unexpected lifeline. A survivor herself, understood the intricate landscape of healing in ways no textbook could capture. She saw beyond Maria's carefully constructed exterior, the forced smiles, the hypervigilant glances, the way her hands would unconsciously protect her face during moments of stress. The counseling was brutal, more painful than any physical wound Carlos had ever inflicted. Maria learned to deconstruct the lies she had internalized, that the abuse was her fault, that she was weak, that she didn't deserve better. Each session peeled back layers of trauma, revealing a strength she had never known existed. Practical survival became her daily mission. The local women's shelter helped her create a safety plan, connected her with job training programs, and provided so she could attend classes. Maria enrolled in a medical billing certification course, her nights spent studying after Emma was asleep, highlighter in hand, determination etched into every line of her face. Her job at the local diner became more than just employment. The owner, Maria, no relation, became an unexpected mentor. She had watched Maria transform from a timid, bruised woman to someone who stood tall, who spoke with conviction. Extra shifts were offered not out of charity, but out of respect for Maria's work ethic. Parenting classes became Maria's sanctuary of hope. She learned techniques to create emotional safety for Emma, to break the generational cycle of trauma. Each lesson was a promise, a commitment that her daughter would know a different kind of love. She practiced active listening, learned to validate emotions, to create boundaries that protected without suffocating. The legal battles were a constant backdrop to her transformation. Restraining orders, custody negotiations, victim support services, Maria navigated a complex system that felt designed to re-traumatize. But she refused to be silenced. She documented everything, attended every meeting, spoke her truth with a voice that grew stronger with each passing month. Emma became her greatest motivation and her most honest reflection. The little girl, so young, showed remarkable resilience. In moments of unexpected joy, building block towers, drawing colorful pictures, singing off-key songs, Maria saw the childhood she had been. Each of Emma's smiles was a victory, a testament to the possibility of healing. Financial stability was a hard-won battle. Maria opened her first bank account, started building credit, created a budget that accounted for every dollar. She attended financial literacy workshops, learning to see money not as a means of survival but as a tool of empowerment. Small victories, a paid bill, a saved dollar, became her new definition of success. Her support network grew slowly but steadily. Her cousin, who had helped her escape, remained a constant. Colleagues from the diner, women from the support group, social workers who saw her potential, they became her chosen family. They understood that healing was not a linear path, but a complex journey of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Technology became both a tool and a challenge. Maria learned to use social media to connect with support groups, to understand her rights, to find resources. She carefully managed her online presence, always aware of the potential safety risks, always protecting Emma's privacy. Self-defense classes became more than physical training. They were a reclamation of her body, her space, her right to exist without fear. Each punch, each block was a statement. She was no longer a victim but a survivor, a protector. As the months turned into a year, Maria looked different. Not just in her carefully maintained appearance, but in her posture, her voice, her eyes. The woman who had fled in the night was transforming into a woman who could not just survive, but thrive. Emma watched, learned, absorbed. She was becoming a mirror of her mother's resilience, a living testament to the power of love, healing, and unwavering hope. The Pima County Courthouse stood as a monument to human stories, each room a stage where lives were dissected, judged, and sometimes, miraculously, rebuilt. On this particular morning, the family court seemed to hold its breath, anticipating a narrative that typical legal proceedings. Maria arrived early, her movements calculated and precise. Gone was the timid woman who once cowered in fear. Her navy blue blazer, carefully chosen from a thrift store sale, was pressed with military-like precision. Every detail of her appearance spoke of preparation, of a mother who understood that this moment could redefine her entire future with her daughter. Emma sat beside her, a tiny force of nature in a soft blue dress her mother had saved for months to buy. The chair seemed to swallow her small frame, but her presence was anything but diminutive. Children have an extraordinary ability to sense the weight of moments, and Emma understood, in ways beyond her years, that something significant was unfolding. The courtroom buzzed with a low, tension-filled hum. Social workers shuffled papers, their manila folders thick with reports and assessments. Lawyers moved with practiced efficiency, their polished shoes clicking against the worn wooden floors. In the corner, almost as an afterthought, stood Officer Jake Martinez and his K-9 partner, Buddy. Buddy was unlike any police dog most had ever seen. Where other K-9 units projected an image of intimidation, Buddy radiated a calm that seemed almost supernatural. His German Shepherd frame was muscular but not threatening, his eyes holding a depth of understanding that made even the most hardened court personnel uncomfortable. The hearing was a complex dance of legal terminology and human emotion. Maria's court-appointed attorney presented a meticulously documented case of her transformation. Counseling certificates, work records, character references, each document a testament to her journey. The social worker's report was cautiously optimistic, noting significant improvements but maintaining a professional distance. Emma had been prepared for this moment. Maria had spent weeks explaining the courtroom in simple terms, helping her daughter understand the importance of staying quiet, of being brave. But preparation can only go so far. Children are unpredictable, raw, unburdened by the social constructs that adults navigate. As the legal arguments continued, Emma's attention wandered. The room was a landscape of adult tensions, raised voices, critical glances, the weight of judgment hanging in the air. And then there was Buddy. The dog stood perfectly still, a sentinel of calm amid the legal storm. Their eyes met, not a casual glance but a connection that seemed to transcend the physical space of the courtroom. Buddy remained absolutely motionless, his training a perfect counterpoint to the chaos around him. Emma, however, was anything but still. Her small body became a conduit of something profound, a language beyond words. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. Emma's hand, small and determined, rose. Her finger pointed directly at Buddy. And then, with a clarity that would become legendary, she spoke two words that would change everything. Safe home. The courtroom froze. It was more than a statement, it was a declaration. Those two words carried the weight of Maria's entire journey, of Buddy's own path from trauma to healing, of a system that was about to make a life-altering decision. Officer Jake Martinez felt something shift. He had seen countless court proceedings, had witnessed the impact of trauma and healing countless times. But this was different. Emma's declaration was not just a child's random utterance. It was a profound observation, a recognition of safety that cut through legal complexity. The social workers exchanged glances. Lawyers paused mid-argument. Judge Elizabeth, who had presided over hundreds of such hearings, felt something crack in her professional veneer. A child's perspective, pure, unfiltered, untainted by adult complications, had just entered the legal equation. Buddy remained perfectly still, but something in his posture changed. A slight relaxation of his muscles, a subtle softening around his eyes. He understood, in the way that deeply traumatized beings can, that he was witnessing a moment of profound healing. Maria's breath caught in her throat. She had prepared for every possible argument, had documented her transformation with scientific precision. But she had not prepared for this, her daughter's intuitive declaration of safety, spoken in the most unexpected of places. The courtroom would never be the same. Emma's two words hung in the air, a testament to the invisible threads of healing, of hope, of the extraordinary language that exists beyond words. Silence is not absence of sound, but a presence of its own. In the Pima County Courthouse, that silence became a living entity, breathing with the weight of Emma's two words, safe home. Judge Elizabeth had presided over countless family court cases, each one a delicate tapestry of human complexity, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Elizabeth's own journey to the bench was etched with similar struggles. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood in Tucson, she had witnessed firsthand the intricate dance of survival that families like Maria's performed daily. Her mother, a school nurse, had been her first understanding of compassionate strength, a woman who saw beyond surfaces, who understood that healing was rarely linear. The courtroom seemed to hold its collective breath. Legal professionals, seasoned in the art of emotional detachment, found themselves unexpectedly vulnerable. Buddy remained perfectly still, a living testament to the possibility of transformation. His presence was more than physical, it was a bridge between trauma and healing, between fear and protection. Maria's attorney, Sarah, felt the ground shift beneath her meticulously prepared arguments. She had spent weeks constructing a legal narrative of Maria's rehabilitation, documented counseling, steady employment, parenting classes, character references. But Emma's simple declaration transcended legal language. It was pure, unfiltered truth. The social worker found his clipboard suddenly insignificant. Years of professional training had taught him to measure progress in metrics, in carefully constructed assessments. But children, he knew, possessed an intuitive wisdom that professional categorization. Emma's statement was not just an observation, it was a profound psychological assessment. Officer Jake Martinez understood something deeper was unfolding. His years of law enforcement had taught him to read situations, to understand the unspoken languages of trauma and healing. Buddy, his partner, had been more than a police dog. He was a living testament to the possibility of transformation. Their partnership was built on understanding that healing was not about erasing past pain, but about creating a new narrative of safety. Judge's mind wandered to her own history. She remembered her first domestic violence case, a moment that had forever changed her understanding of justice. It wasn't about punishment, but about creating pathways to safety, to healing. Emma's declaration resonated with every case she had ever witnessed, every family she had tried to protect. The tears that began to form in the judge's eyes were not of weakness, but of profound understanding. They were a recognition of the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit. Maria's journey, Emma's intuition, Buddy's presence, they were all threads in a larger tapestry of survival. Legal precedent seemed suddenly inadequate. How do you measure a mother's transformation? How do you quantify a child's sense of safety? The documentation Maria had brought, counseling certificates, work records, character references, suddenly seemed both critically important and entirely insufficient. Emma continued to look at Buddy, her gaze unwavering. Children, untainted by adult complexities, possess a remarkable ability to see truth. Buddy represented more than a police dog. He was a symbol of protection, of healing, of the possibility of safety after trauma. The opposing counsel, a seasoned attorney named Robert, found himself unexpectedly disarmed. His arguments, carefully constructed to challenge Maria's fitness as a mother, now seemed cold, mechanical. He had entered the courtroom prepared for a legal battle, but found himself confronting something far more profound, a pure declaration of human resilience. His notes began to blur. Professional objectivity felt suddenly insufficient. He had watched Maria's transformation, had documented her progress with clinical precision. But Emma's 2 words captured something his reports never could, the intangible essence of healing, of hope. Sarah felt a surge of emotion she struggled to contain. Legal victories were rarely this pure, this profound. She had defended countless clients, constructed countless arguments, but this moment transcended typical legal success. This was about something larger, about the human capacity to heal, to rebuild, to hope. Officer Jake's hand instinctively moved to Buddy's collar, a gesture of connection, of shared understanding. Their partnership had always been about more than law enforcement. It was about protection, about creating safe spaces in a world that could be fundamentally unsafe. Judge's pen hovered over her notepad. Professional protocol demanded careful documentation, measured responses. But something profound was happening, a moment that legal categorization, that spoke to the deepest aspects of human resilience. Emma's safe home hung in the air, not just a statement but a declaration, a testament to the extraordinary journey of a mother and daughter, a recognition that healing is not about erasing pain, but about creating new possibilities. The courtroom would remember this moment, not as a legal proceeding but as a profound declaration of hope. The courtroom became a canvas of human resilience, painted with testimonies that would challenge everything the legal system thought it knew about healing. Officer Jake Martinez stood as the first witness, his presence both authoritative and compassionate, a living bridge between law enforcement and human understanding. Jake's testimony was unlike any the court had previously heard. He spoke not just with professional precision, but with a depth of understanding that came from years of witnessing human struggles. His voice carried the weight of countless interventions, of families rescued from the brink of destruction, of hope reconstructed from the fragments of trauma. Maria, he began, his words carefully chosen, represents more than a statistic of domestic violence survival. She is a testament to the human capacity for transformation. He detailed her journey with a meticulousness that left no room for doubt. Each of her achievements was presented not as a simple checklist, but as a profound act of courage. The court learned about Maria's journey in vivid detail. Her counseling was more than just mandatory sessions. It was a radical act of self-reconstruction. Jake described how she had not just attended parenting classes, but had become a mentor to other struggling mothers. Her work at the local diner was transformed from simple employment to a narrative of economic independence and personal dignity. Buddy sat beside Jake, his presence a silent testimony. The dog's history was carefully unveiled, a survivor of abuse who had transformed into a beacon of protection. The parallel between Buddy and Maria was not lost on anyone in the courtroom. Both had survived, both had found a way to turn pain into purpose. Sarah, Maria's attorney, supplemented Jake's testimony with documented evidence. Employment records showed Maria's consistent work history. Counseling certificates demonstrated her commitment to personal growth. Character references painted a picture of a woman who had not just survived, but had become a pillar of her small community. The social worker approached the stand with a measured professionalism that barely concealed his genuine admiration. His report was a careful balance of institutional language and human understanding. Ms. has demonstrated exceptional progress, he stated, his voice steady. Her commitment to creating a safe, nurturing environment for her daughter is remarkable. The documentation told a story of meticulous transformation. Maria had completed not just the minimum required programs, but had gone above and beyond. She had taken additional courses in financial literacy, attended support group leadership training, and even begun volunteering at the local women's shelter. Emma's presence in the courtroom became its own form of testimony. She sat quietly, occasionally glancing at Buddy, her demeanor a living refutation of the potential long-term trauma typically associated with domestic violence survivors. Her interactions with Maria spoke of a deep, secure attachment, a bond that had been carefully and intentionally rebuilt. The opposing counsel, Robert, found his typical aggressive approach suddenly inadequate. His cross-examination became less about finding fault and more about understanding the depth of Maria's transformation. The carefully constructed walls of legal skepticism began to crumble in the face of overwhelming evidence of healing. Jake's testimony extended beyond the typical boundaries of a police officer's statement. He spoke about community intervention, about the delicate process of supporting families in crisis. His words painted a picture of law enforcement that was more about protection and healing than punishment. Buddy's role was carefully explained, not just as a police dog, but as a specialized support animal trained to work with trauma survivors. His presence in the courtroom was itself a powerful statement about the potential for healing, about the possibility of transformation from victim to survivor. The financial records told their own story of resilience. Maria had not just maintained employment, but had begun to build a stable financial foundation. Her credit score, carefully rebuilt, told a story of fiscal responsibility and personal growth. Bank statements showed consistent savings, careful budgeting, a future being deliberately constructed. Character witnesses spoke with a passion that transcended typical legal testimonies. Her manager from the diner described her as a model employee. Her counseling group leader spoke of her leadership and support of other survivors. Her daughter's preschool teacher highlighted Emma's emotional intelligence and sense of security. As the testimonies concluded, something remarkable had happened. What began as a legal proceeding had transformed into a celebration of human resilience. Maria was no longer just a client or a case number. She was a testament to the extraordinary capacity of the human spirit to heal, to rebuild, to hope. Judge listened, her professional facade giving way to a deeply human understanding. The testimonies had done more than present a case. They had revealed a profound journey of transformation, of a mother and daughter who had not just survived, but had chosen to truly live. The chambers of Judge Elizabeth were a sanctuary of reflection, a space where human stories converged with the delicate machinery of justice. The walls, lined with law books and carefully preserved case files, bore silent witness to countless lives transformed, broken, and rebuilt within the justice system. Elizabeth's journey to this moment was etched with personal understanding that transcended legal doctrine. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood of Tucson, she had witnessed the intricate dance of survival that families like Maria's performed daily. Her mother, a school nurse who had seen more human struggle than most, had been her first understanding of true justice, a concept far more nuanced than mere legal interpretation. The testimonies of the day replayed in her mind like a complex symphony. Each voice, Jake Martinez's professional insights, careful social work assessment, Sarah's passionate legal arguments, created a narrative that simple categorization. Emma's 2 words, safe home, echoed with a power that no legal brief could capture. Elizabeth pulled out her well-worn notebook, the pages filled with notes that told stories beyond the clinical language of legal documents. Her marginalia revealed a deeply compassionate approach to justice, notes that spoke of human potential, of healing, of transformation. This was not just about a custody decision. It was about recognizing the extraordinary journey of a mother and daughter. The case files before her told a story of remarkable metamorphosis. Maria was not the same woman who had fled in terror years ago. Each document, counseling certificates, work records, character references, was a testament to human resilience. The transformation was not just documented, it was profound, deeply felt, almost miraculous. Buddy's role in the proceedings haunted her reflections. She had seen many police dogs in her courtroom, but never one that seemed to embody healing so completely. The German Shepherd was more than a trained animal. He was a living metaphor for the possibility of transformation, of moving beyond trauma. Elizabeth thought about the countless cases she had presided over, families torn apart, lives shattered, hope seemingly lost. But this case was different. Maria had not just survived. She had reconstructed herself with a determination that challenged every preconceived notion about domestic violence survivors. The legal precedent seemed suddenly inadequate. How do you measure a mother's love? How do you quantify the intricate process of healing? The documentation was important, but it was Emma's intuitive declaration of safe home that truly spoke to the heart of the matter. Her mind wandered to her own family history. Her grandmother, an immigrant who had survived unimaginable hardships, had taught her that justice was not about punishment, but about creating pathways to hope. Maria's journey resonated with those generational stories of survival and reconstruction. The tears that had begun in the courtroom now flowed more freely in the privacy of her chambers. These were not tears of weakness, but of profound understanding. They were a recognition of the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit, a testament to the possibility of healing. Professional protocol demanded a measured response. Yet Elizabeth understood that some moments transcend legal language. The testimonies had revealed a journey of transformation that was about more than just custody. It was about the fundamental human capacity to rebuild, to hope, to love. Buddy's presence in the courtroom had been more than symbolic. He represented a living testament to the possibility of healing from trauma. His own journey from an abused animal to a protector paralleled Maria's transformation in ways that simple explanation. The character witnesses had painted a picture of Maria that went beyond the typical legal assessments. Her manager spoke of reliability, her counseling group leader of leadership, her daughter's teacher of emotional intelligence. These were not just statements, they were a collective testament to human potential. Emma's subtle presence throughout the proceedings had been its own powerful testimony. A child who had known fear, now radiating a sense of security that spoke volumes about her mother's incredible journey of healing and protection. Elizabeth's pen hovered over the decision document. Legal language seemed suddenly insufficient to capture the profound human story before her. This was not just a custody case. It was a celebration of human resilience, of the extraordinary capacity to transform pain into hope. As the afternoon light filtered through her office windows, Judge understood that her decision would be more than a legal ruling. It would be a recognition of a journey, a testament to the extraordinary power of love, healing, and human potential. The tears continued to fall, not of sadness, but of a profound, overwhelming hope. The Arizona sunset painted the sky in hues of amber and rose, a canvas of hope that seemed to celebrate Maria and Emma's victory. Leaving the courthouse was more than a physical journey. It was a symbolic passage from survival to living, from fear to freedom. Officer Jake Martinez and Buddy waited outside, their presence a continued testament to the support system that had carried Maria through her darkest moments. The connection between them was more than professional. It was a profound understanding of what true protection really meant. Maria's first stop was not home, but the Women's Support Center where her journey of healing had begun. The group facilitator who had been her lifeline embraced her with tears and joy. The center was more than a support group. It was a sanctuary of transformation, a place where broken spirits learned to rebuild. Emma walked between her mother and Officer Jake, her small hand occasionally reaching out to touch Buddy's soft fur. The dog, ever patient, matched his steps perfectly to the child's rhythm. Children understand more than adults often realize, and Emma's journey was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The community that had supported Maria gathered to celebrate, not with grand gestures, but with quiet, profound moments of recognition. Her manager from the diner brought a homemade cake. Colleagues from her medical billing certification class arrived with cards and hugs. Each person represented a thread in the intricate tapestry of her reconstruction. Sarah, Maria's attorney, understood that legal victory was just the beginning. She had arranged additional support services, continued counseling, financial planning workshops, resources for single mothers. The court's decision was not an endpoint, but a new starting point. From social services prepared a follow-up plan that was more about empowerment than supervision. Regular check-ins would become opportunities for celebration, for recognizing continued growth. The goal was not to monitor, but to support, to ensure that Maria and Emma had every opportunity to thrive. Emma's preschool teacher had prepared a special welcome-back celebration. The classroom was decorated with butterflies, a symbol of transformation that the children had crafted together. For Emma, this was more than a return to school. It was a declaration of her new reality, safe, loved, supported. Judge Elizabeth's decision had been more than a legal document. It was a recognition of human potential, of the extraordinary capacity to heal. Her notes, carefully preserved, would become a reference point for future cases, a reminder that justice is about restoration, not just punishment. Maria began to plan for the future with a clarity she had never known before. She enrolled in additional certification courses, looking towards a career that would provide stability and purpose. Her dreams were no longer about survival, but about creating opportunities for herself and for Emma. The women's support group became more than a recovery space. It became a launching pad for collective empowerment. Maria began to share her story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. Her journey inspired others, creating a ripple effect of hope and transformation. Officer Jake and Buddy continued their specialized work with families in crisis. Emma's courtroom moment became a case study in trauma-informed support, a powerful reminder of the importance of compassionate intervention. Financial stability became more than a goal, it became a reality. Maria's careful budgeting, her commitment to education, her unwavering focus on creating a stable home began to bear fruit. Small victories, a paid bill, a saved dollar, a new certification, became her markers of success. Emma's relationship with Buddy became a symbol of healing. The police dog who had known trauma became a constant in their lives, a guardian, a friend, a living testament to the possibility of transformation. Their connection transcended words, a silent understanding of survival and hope. The community that had supported Maria was not just a support network, it was a chosen family. From the diner owner who had given her extra shifts to the counselors who had guided her healing, each person had played a crucial role in her reconstruction. As night fell, Maria tucked Emma into bed, their home now a true sanctuary. The fear that had once consumed their lives had been replaced by a profound sense of safety, of possibility. Emma's soft breathing, Buddy's gentle presence in the living room, the quiet strength of their rebuilt life. This was their victory. Their story was not just about surviving domestic violence. It was about the extraordinary human capacity to heal, to hope, to create beauty from pain. The journey continued, one day at a time.